Good morning, hey, what's happening YouTube? Thanks for stopping back into the channel today right here with the Rustbelt Mechanic. Today we've got the big old Cadillac SRX, the budget build, back into the shop, and we're going to be doing some much needed repairs to this. Now, keeping in good faith, we're going to be doing the repair it as we go and not replace all the parts. So we are starting with the most important and probably the worst fix today, and that is going to be the transfer case. What do we have going on with that right now? If you get anything over like half throttle or better, the transfer case chain actually jumps. It slips, makes a really loud banging sound, and it is not good at all. It turns the traction control on, it recesses your throttle. You have no throttle over 20 miles an hour, so it's something that we have to take care of absolutely first. So we've got it in here today, and we're going to go through what we're going to do. We're actually going to be rebuilding a lot of this one and not just going to the junkyard and grabbing a transfer case. So swap it out, save us some money. It's going to be a good one. So we're going to get in a look at what we're doing today. We've actually already removed the exhaust using the good old liquid wrench here. I got that one kind of done ahead of time just because we had to cut the bolts off of there. We actually had to drive the studs out of the exhaust, and we're going to be replacing the hardware on those also. Also, when I took the exhaust, the O2 sensors off, I don't know if we can see the threads on this one, but all the threads came out with the O2 sensor, so we're going to have to repair the threads, and we're going to have to replace this O2 sensor. Bad luck on that one, but you know what? That's how things go. So we're going to be removing our transfer case here. Before we do that one, we're going to have to remove our prop shafts. We've got our rear one to take out, two-piece. It does have a carrier bearing kind of mounted up in place with this plate here in the center, and take it off the rear. We're going to get that one out of the way, and then the front one as well. Now the front one today, we're going to be doing some repair on it as well, because it is actually pretty much slung a lot of the grease out, and you can see our boot is torn, and I think it makes a little bit of noise. So we are actually going to be rebuilding this part of the front prop shaft also, not just replacing it. Now I know a lot of guys, these things aren't that expensive. They're like 150 bucks, but you know what? We're actually going to repair it. We've got a repair kit. Cost me like $45 or so, so not all that bad. But the first things first, we need to get those prop shafts out, and then we're going to be getting our transfer case out so we can take it apart and have a look in at how bad the chain, gears, and bearings and everything are in there. So now let's get the prop shafts out, then we're going to get our cross member here out of the way to be able to access all of the bolts that mount the transfer case to the transmission. That joint's plenty loose. Glad we're going to be fixing this one. So now we're going to need to take our cross member out, and we need to support our transmission here. So we're going to grab a transmission jack and a block of wood to be able to put under the trans pin right here. You want to use a block of wood so you're not going to be poking big indents into the bottom of your trans pan, messing up your pickup. All right, so now to remove the mounting bolts for the transfer case, they're kind of in weird spots. There's one buried in the transfer case back here, but it's going to be all these 15mm ones. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 all the way up there. At that point, it's pretty much cake to get this thing out of here. There's not going to be any other linkages or anything like that. Get those 4 out, and then we're going to be popping this thing off the transmission. There we go, we got all of our bolts out. Now we're just going to be able to wiggle this thing loose, pop it out, and get it out on our bench. So more or less today, our bench is being shared by him. He's cylinder head. We got a lot of other work to get done today. First things first, when you get it on the bench, we need to get all the old nasty fluid out of it. All it has is these little drains right here. I guess you could have done that in the car at the same point too. You're gonna break these off, loose. We're gonna let the case drain here for a minute. Wow, that stuff is nasty. This is actually supposed to be Dex 3 fluid. It's supposed to be red. It looks more like bronze. That is some bad stuff right in there. Yep, bad stuff. Okay, well, get that all drained out, and then we're gonna flip the case over and get it apart. Now to get our case split apart, we've got all the fluid all drained out, got a couple of rotors kind of propping it up so we're somewhat even. You're gonna be taking out all of these 40mm Torx all the way around on this backing plate for the transfer case. This front input or output shaft that would go to the front drive shaft, this one doesn't have any kind of nuts or anything. I guess it's just slip fit into a gear inside, so we won't have to worry about that one. So we'll get all these out, and then we'll worry about prying the case apart. Now we're going to be prying the case apart, and there's a couple of different pry points around here, over here, and here in this area, and then we'll show you a little trick on getting these things pried apart. So you're actually going to take 2 pry bars, just not very big ones, and we're going to put it into that opening here, and we're going to put them like this, and then we're going to pry the 2 apart to be able to get the case halves kind of pried apart. Pry just a little bit here and there. We're going to have to go back and forth on it between these pry points. And it popped off all of a sudden. All right, wasn't that bad. Looks like pulling it out, it is just going to want to kind of pull everything out with it. It is so loose in here that everything's just kind of flopping apart and around. Let's look into this one. Now, initial look into what we've got going on here. Yeah, here's our problem. This chain right here, not really supposed to be all that loose. We're supposed to be pretty toyed across here. Thankfully, we have not a whole lot of wear on the teeth, so people haven't really done a lot of jumping of the gears or anything like that. Get this thing kind of, see if we can pull it apart there. Get a closer look in. Not really seeing any kind of issues with the actual teeth, so that's a good part. We don't have any real hard parts that are heavily damaged. These gears here on the input, they are in pretty decent shape too. They're not really kind of janked up or anything either, so not too bad. I'm glad we don't have any real hard parts that are all messed up on the inside of this case either. Now I also picked up a kind of more of a in-depth rebuild kit on this, just in case we ran into some really messed up bearings or anything. But we pull our input shaft out here, and our bearings are actually in pretty darn good shape, surprisingly. So I don't think we're gonna have to do anything with that. I am gonna replace the seals, however. I wanna make sure we get those all taken care of. So we're gonna kind of get these little pieces and parts out of here. This one will take off from the other end, and then we're going to get this part of the case put into our parts washer, because we don't want to put all of this gunk back in after we're all done with this and making it all nice and new shiny parts. So we're going to go get this thing cleaned up really good, then we'll get into the other part of the case here and see what we got going on in there. All right, so we've got everything kind of apart. So we want to get everything all nice and cleaned off here, and we just so happen to have a nice parts washer here at work. So we pulled the case halves apart, pulled the planetary gears out of the end of it. Oh, they just literally pull out of the end, and we'll show you when we go to put everything together. Planetary gears look really good in that one, so we'll be worrying about putting that one back together, but we want to get it all baked off because it had some nasty, nasty stuff on the inside. So we'll get that one all baked off, close it up here, let the CUDA bake it for another hour or so. Get that one baked off, and let's go have a look at our drive shaft in the meantime. So while we've got everything baking here, we've got our front drive shaft, and we're gonna need to do some replacing and, of fixing this part here. So the back section right here, the one with the cone on it, that one went into the transfer case. That one, no movement really, is pretty tight. The bearings and everything feel good inside of that CV. However, the front one, we can kind of see that the boots have been torn. They've probably been torn for a long time, so there is no fluid inside of there. And that one, there is a lot of movement in there. This thing is junk. So normally you could say we could pick up one of these. I found some on the internet for about 175, 200 bucks or so. But like I said, with this video series, we're doing rebuilding, not replacing. So found this kit on, I think it was Rock Auto or Driveshaftparts.com, and it is a full CV rebuild kit. Ended up picking this thing up for like 48 bucks or so. It is a pretty nice kit. Got the new boot end that's sealed into the end, the other cap end to it, spacers, gaskets, the whole new CV portion in here. So all new bearing and everything there, and bag of grease that's going to go inside, as well as the clamp for the end of the boot. So rebuild time. Let's get our clamp off of here and get this CV all taken apart. There we go, we got our cap off, and the inside of this CV is dry as a bone. This thing is junk. See if I can get a little bit better light on here for you, so just to show it. It is junk, no grease in there at all, really just crap. So we got the cap off. Now you can see there is a little C-clip here. It goes around on that intersection where you get that little C-clip off right there to be able to drive the CV off of the actual shaft. Oh, well, there she goes. I caught it. We're good. We're good. All right, so now we need to drive it actually off the end of the shaft. Well, that was simple enough. And we can see we got pretty much no grease or anything inside of there for that matter. The boot is totally torn, so we're going to cut this part of the boot off. We'll get that one cut off here. And taken off. There we go. Now we're going to want to clean up the shaft and all the nasty crumbled bits on there. So we're going to get a little roll or Scotch-Brite, clean this up real nice so we don't have any issues with that one. But outside of that, all this crap, junk. So yeah, this one, and we'll Scotch-Brite the crap out of it. go. Pretty nice and cleaned off there. We've got our boot end, which the actual nipple needs to stick out the other direction. So now we're going to actually, let's grease that up just a little bit. A little bit of grease in here on our end. All right. Get our nice little new clamp onto there. I'm going to get this pushed onto up into our end. So there we go. Looks pretty good right there. Now at this point, we also have this little gasket that's like a waveformed gasket. That one is going to go on into this end of it. Kind of match up the bolt holes to it. And then we're going to have our universal. So before we put our universal on, we're going to want to pack some of our grease into this opening. And this kit comes with plenty of grease, so be generous. There's a ton of it there. All right, got that there. Kind of want to keep it lined up with our holes. Pack our grease down in. Like I said, plenty of it there. Now, in our actual CV, there is one side that is perfectly flat, and then there's one side that has a groove to it here. The groove side is going to go towards the end. So we're going to get the CV, get it kind of straightened up here. Maybe. And then I want to pack some more grease into the CV so we're not kind of starting it dry either. There we go, we got her packed up there. Now our inside is going to slip over onto the shaft. There we go. And now we have to put our clip ring back onto this end. What I like about this kit is this comes with a new clip. This one didn't have any end to it. This one has some nice holes to be able to use some nice pliers instead of just letting this thing kind of fly off into nowhere. And there we go. We got it all clipped into place. We are pretty darn good to go on that one. Now before we start packing more grease in, I want to make sure that we got our bolt holes all lined up here on the back side, and then we're going to pack some more grease into the bearing here. Get our ends all clamped in there. All right, that looks pretty good right there. We got our clamp on. Now we're going to want to put some more grease into the end here before we put our cap onto it. Like I said, be fairly open about this one and just put a bunch of grease into it. Pack it in like you're packing a wheel bearing. There we go, we got us plenty of grease up in there. Now, with our kit, also came with this little rubber doodad right here, and that is actually going to be a seal for this end cap. Get some of the grease packed down in here pretty good before we put our end on it. And then this one, we want to make sure we get it all lined up with our holes there on the end as well before we go on and putting her cap on. And then we've got our nice new cap for the end of it. So we're going to get the holes lined up on that one. There we go. Now what we want to do, we're going to take a pair of our channel locks here, and we're just going to kind of crimp the ends in just to make sure we're all seated all the way around. There we go. All right, we are all nice pressed into place. Plenty of grease in there, sealed up, all tightened on there. That is one fresh rebuilt CV on the drive shaft without replacing the whole shaft. All right, so we got our case all up out of the parts washer, got everything cleaned up, and everything cleaned up oh so nicely. I ended up over preparing for this one. I ended up getting a whole new bearing set and everything just in case, but after inspecting all of our bearings are in like really good shape. So I'm not gonna worry about taking those out. If you wanted to take them out, you're gonna have to end up on this one. You're gonna have to get you in here. This one, there is a snap ring you would have to take off, and then you would have to drive it out this way. This one, you would just have to take the shaft out here. Also, drive it from this one, you had to take the shaft out, drive it from the outside in right there. Also, these ones in the case, you would actually have to get a hook lock in there with a slide hammer to be able to pull some of those out. So I am not needing to do exactly that one on there, but I am going to replace the seals. This one is just going to pull out with a little slide hammer or a lady finger, tap a new seal back into that one. So that one's going to be pretty easy on that one. So nothing else really a whole lot rough to this thing. It turned out pretty nice and pretty clean. The main planetary assembly ended up looking really good also, and then the teeth on all of our gears turned out okay, so we're going to end up reusing all that stuff. So I'm going to get these seals pried out of the end case right here. There we go. Got our seal out with our nice little handy dandy slide hammer seal puller, so we'll get a new one put down in there. Brand spanking new seal racha. We got a socket to about match the outside diameter. There we go. Got her down in at our right depth. Brand new seal, check. So one of the hard parts we ended up having to take care of here was I noticed that the main shaft here, once it goes down into that part of the hole right there, it had a lot of slop. And the kit that I ended up getting comes with a new brass bushing here. It fits a whole lot better, so we needed to get that one out. However, I used my little slide hammer and it just would not come out. So what I ended up having to do was take a carbide bit and kind of grinding like most of it away until it kind of broke free. And now we got to get our slide hammer in there to get the old one pulled out. There, it broke in half, I think. Yep. We'll get those pieces out of there and then we'll drive the new one down in. All right, now that we got our new bushing, I drove it in there. Sorry, the camera cut out on that one, but I drove it in there with just an old crappy socket there. And then seeing how well it fits now, before it was all kinds of wobbly. And now this one, you can hear just kind of pop out of place. So that is perfect in there, absolutely perfect. All right, so now I think we got everything replaced that I was wanting to replace. So we're gonna go ahead and start putting everything back in how it was supposed to go. All right, so now let's get into some more assembly here. We got our main shaft. We're going to use this side of the case to kind of put our stuff together. Make sure you get all this surface all cleaned off. I already scraped it ahead of time, get all the old gasket material out. We made sure that our shaft did fit nice and easy down into the other end. So good to go there. Get some grease on this end. There we go. So we'll get that one fit right down onto there. Now we've got our two ends for our chain right here. and those will be fitting on here just like so. So we got to get our chain put on at the same time with those. There we go. There we are, got it seated all in there. And you see how much tighter that chain is now. Yeah, that thing sits much better on there now. Much better on that. Yes, good deal. Now we're going to take our planetary assembly and we're going to be assembling it on, or putting it onto this end right here. We've got our sun gear input that we're going to be putting right there. And then we're going to be putting our planetary set right in here on this one. All right, now we've got everything all assembled into place, lubed up, ready to go, chain tight, check. So now we need to mate the two halves of the case up. So we need to get some sealer put on in between this. We've got some black RTV to be able to seal this thing up. Nice thin bead, not too much, don't want to overdo it, and as well as the little island piece right here in the middle also needs a bit of sealer as well. So we'll do that and then we will mate the two halves. All right, now the moment of truth. We're going to mate the two halves of the case together. Give it some wigglage. There we go, like so. Made it up. That actually went together really easily. If you guys have a little bit of an issue trying to get it to go in, you might need to rotate this end to get the planetaries all lined up into that sun gear there. So there we go, went pretty good. Now we're going to install our case bolts back on. We're going to need to flip this over again. So get this all flipped back up to here, and then we're going to reinstall all of our Torx bolts back in here. You need to do kind of a cross pattern back and forth across the case, and we're going to be putting it in, I believe it's 18 foot-pounds. I'll look that one up, make sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Get that all mated up and kind of let it seat there for a little while, and then we'll get her back in the car. Alrighty guys, we got her all tied all back up there. You can look over here. Transfer case is all put up. Shafts are put in, exhaust is put in, got us some new hardware since we had to cut the old ones off. You can see our new CV hanging out there. Went in pretty darn nice, if I had to say so myself. Now the only thing that was really left was to fill up the transfer case with new fluid. New fluid on this one takes Dexron 3, is what the manufacturer recommends. And all you have to do is get that top one right there with the 3/8 and open that one up, and you just fill it till it starts trickling out of there and the unit is full. Have a look at everything else here. Everything in the exhaust tied up pretty darn nice as well. And we're gonna be taking care of some other stuff here real soon. All these other leaks and stuff that are, you know, just kind of everywhere around here. Oil, coolant right there. Oh, that's cucks. Coming out the side of the radiator. Wonder what we're gonna do about that one. Looks like it's coming right at the seam. Doesn't that figure? Well, I guess we're gonna have to see if we can find a radiator then. Next weekend we're gonna be doing some other big stuff. We're gonna be doing timing, I think, on this now in the next week, just so we can see where we're at and everything on that one. All right, so the next thing we got to do is we got to get rid of our traction control lights so we can actually drive this thing around. The throttle body needs relearned and clear all the slippage, ABS codes and everything. So let's grab our Texa unit and let's clear everything out. All right guys, come to find out that there really isn't a throttle relearn thing on this one. All I had to do was clear out the stability control lights and issues that we had within the controller, and everything ended up working out just fine. I got no weird noises, no big clunks, no thumps, no leaks or anything like that. So big plus for that one. I'm stoked, glad this thing was able to go through just as easy as, you know, as possible for a Cadillac. But, you know, we've got lots more projects on the way for this one. We've got a lot more to do, but that's a good one to be able to get it out of the way, because now I can actually drive the car around and not worry about it just going into limp mode and, you know, just dying on me and not being able to drive it. All right, so as far as the entire project goes, where does this stack up? We want to be able to track exactly how much we've spent on this one, because we want to be able to show that owning a Cadillac is not going to break the bank totally. So this job today was actually pretty nice when it comes to where I was able to get parts for a pretty decent price. I was able to get the transfer case chain for 78 bucks. Pretty good deal, I thought there. The seal and the bushing kit, yeah, I didn't use a whole lot of it, but you know, I thought the parts that I did use was necessary. That one was 98 bucks. I got a couple extra parts left over, so if I ever have issues with the bearings later on, we've got that one. Transfer case fluid, that one was donated by one of the local shops, freebie, thank you for that one. The Driveshaft CV kit, that one was 49 bucks. I thought that was pretty good. We saved us about 150 bucks, 140 bucks when it comes to the drive shaft itself. And the only other unexpected expense was when I ended up taking the exhaust down. I ended up pulling the driver's side O2 sensor. When it came out, the threads just totally were trash, so I had to end up replacing that sensor. Thankfully, I was able to actually rethread and fix the bung that goes into the exhaust, so I didn't have to do any kind of exhaust repair or cutting anything or torching anything else like that. Didn't cost me anything else. So where we at then? There is our list with the cost of the actual unit. We are sitting, you add all those up, right at $800 on the dot. 800 bucks we're at so far, and we're at a running driving car. I want to show you guys something real quick on what I found for the throttle body. So when I got into looking at the throttle body itself, it's got some numbers and letters on there from, actually it was a junkyard unit that somebody put on, probably trying to chase this same exact issue. But I ended up finding out that when I shook the actual connector is when I would pop a PO122 throttle position low code, and it would end up dropping throttle and it would go into limp mode. So ended up finding out that there was no more clips left on my harness connector right there. Somebody has broken them off. So quick, easy mechanics fix, zip tie city, puts that connector back into place, and voila, no more issues with the throttle body. So what is up next? We've got lots and lots of parts for this thing that I've already kind of got here. So in the next week or so, we've got our timing kit able to do, and we've got all of our different gaskets, hoses, belts, stuff on top for the engine. We'll be going through that one a little bit here and there. We still need to find time and a place to do the radiator. Still kind of looking for a back seat on this thing. Haven't got any luck to find one for it yet, but we're gonna see what we can do on that one. Eventually we'll get to the brakes and stuff. So if there's anything else that you guys really would like to see done on this one, service wise, just checking it over, checking it out, that I can throw in on one of the repair videos for this vehicle, feel free to leave that one in the comments below. If you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on that bell notification so you get notified when I come out with cool, awesome content just like this one here today. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and as always, you guys stay awesome.